Candied citrus peels make a really nice garnish for desserts. I like to melt chocolate bars and then dip them into it. I call them diabetes french fries. They're also one of those things you can put into a mason jar and wrap with a crap load of twine and take a picture of it and tell your friends it's your country, even though you live in a suburban area 5 minutes away from an H&R Block. Now I have a bunch of peels left over after a video I did on how to supreme citrus. I'll have a link pop up in the top right, and I'll leave one in the description too if you'd like to go watch that video. The goal here is to separate the white part, or the pith, from the orange part, or the zest. A better analogy is that the white part is dreams and sleep, the orange part is me, and this knife is my brain at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to convince me that I didn't turn the oven off. We want to apply a small downward pressure with the blade so that it keeps the zest flat on our cutting board, and with short up and down motions allowing the knife to make the cuts, we want to use our finger to guide it near the end and then switch our hand over so our little piggy doesn't go wee 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 all the way to the hospital. We will end up with a small amount of pith, which actually is kind of tart, but don't worry, the sugar we use later in the recipe will counteract that. If you feel uncomfortable with this knife technique, or you just don't have any extra peels around, that's okay. Just use a peeler and peel it off the whole fruit. Either way, this is a good way to practice your mise en place. Now, mise en place is a French term that roughly translates to everything in its place. I plan on dedicating a whole video to this one day down the road, but in this instance, the mise en place is me putting individual piles of each zest separately from each other. This in turn allows zests of similar sizes and toughness to be bunched together. Say for instance how limes and lemons both have a smaller and tougher zest, but oranges and grapefruits have a much softer and larger zest. From what I've gathered in the restaurants I've worked at here in America, the term for mise en place we use is, hey, keep your bleep on your board, you bleep and bleep. At the end of the day, I ended up with about 2 orange, 2 lemon, 2 lime, and 1 grapefruit cut into about the width of a matchstick. Now I've done this different ways in different restaurants, but the way I feel works best is to start these zests in cold water and bringing it up to a boil. We want to boil this for 10 minutes. This will soften the zests. It will also start to work on the tartness of the pith. After 10 minutes, we want to strain the water out from the zest. But keep that pot that you just boiled these bad boys in, because we need to make some simple syrup. Simple syrup is just a 1-to-1 ratio of water and sugar. Now for my amount, I only needed a cup of water and a cup of sugar. You may want to gauge it out yourself. You can always add more water and sugar if needed. I again start this all from cold, adding the zest into the cold water and sugar mixture. Don't worry, we're going to bring this up to a boil, and that will in turn dissolve the sugar into the water, soften the zests, and start the sweetening process for everything. After 10 minutes of boiling this in the simple syrup solution, we need to strain it once more. Now we've got ourselves a good, nasty, sticky ball of zest, so we need to spread them out and allow them to cool on either a silpat or a piece of parchment piece of parchment paper sprayed down with nonstick. Whew, we need to spread these bad boys out. I recommend wearing gloves because this will be hot and sticky. After about an hour, they'll be cooled down enough to be tossed in sugar. Now, the reason we wait for it to cool down is because while it's still hot, it'll just dissolve the sugar right into it, and we want to get a good crystallized look on the outside. So we need them to cool down, put them in a bowl, and then toss them with the desired amount of granulated sugar. My desired amount is hashtag dang girl you slain with that crystallization, but you can always go with less. I also like to return it back to the silpat or parchment paper for about an hour just to finish up the crystallization process on the outside sugar. Anywho, thank you for joining me on another episode of Wake Up Smelda. Here are some other videos you may like. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, love you. See you on the next one.